Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. This is your friend Ursi, and today I'm joined by my star sister again. Welcome back, Elizabeth HeartStar. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you so much for calling me back again.
Well, we both heard something that wanted to come through, and today our overall discussion is going to be looking at Sedna. Sedna and a divine message from Sedna as Elizabeth shares with us a little bit about the backstory of her journeying with this amazing archetypal energy, what it means, how a glyph, an actual powerful symbol, came through Elizabeth and her creativity and is now resonating within the well known and respected astrological field of many astrologers. And then we'd like to talk a little bit about a beautiful human being, your former mentor, who just passed recently, and his gift of a message. And then lastly, you're going to be offering some amazing workshop working with the astrology, the celestial heavens, including Sedna, for a February 2027 invitation. So without further ado, welcome, Elizabeth. Tell us a little bit more about the story of you and Sedna, and begin with what is Sedna exactly?
Oh, well, Sedna is, as people probably have heard, astrologers. Sedna was first seen by astronomers in November of 2003. And what was interesting during that time, there was, some astrologers may remember that it was being called the harmonic concordance, this eclipse that was happening. I think right before they spotted Sedna, and they called it the harmonic concordance because it was an incredible eclipse, but it was a six-pointed star created in the heavens, in the chart. And it was just, I believe, days after that they spotted Sedna, and I believe it was because this energy was amazing. And what was incredible about this eclipse cycle is that it connected with the time of the Magna Carta was signed, which took the power away from the king for the people. And later, in that same timeline of that eclipse, was the time of the Cathars' annihilation. So it had a lot to do with first bringing the power to the people, and also trying to annihilate the Mary Magdalene, the whole, Christ message, which was about equality. So that six-pointed star. And so Sedna was first seen there. And I have lived in Sedona since 1990. And at that time in 2003 and 2004, I was working out of doing astrology and vortex tours out of a center called the Sedona Heart Center. And we had a big mother drum in our center that probably I'm guessing 6 to 8 people could sit around, and each of us would take a turn at noon each day to do a prayer drumming circle as a service to the community, just for a noontime prayer drumming. Well, it happened to be March 15th of 2004, and I always remember that, the Ides of March, but also it's my close friend Christy's birthday. And I believe it's national radio on. I was washing up to leave to go to the center because it was right before noon, and over the radio I heard the 10th planet. This is how it was announced. The 10th planet has been discovered. Its name is Sedna. Well, I was so excited that when I got to the mother drum, and I think there were about 4 people around that day, and I said, I'm really excited. I just heard that a 10th planet named Sedna was just announced. And I'd like to dedicate our drumming to this new planet to see what comes. Well, in the drumming, I received a symbol. And this is the symbol that I received. And I felt like it was Sedna. And I went home um, and read Sedna's. I was like, "Oh, who is this Sedna? What is Sedna?" And I read the one of the many myths. There are many myths written about Sedna, but the one that I read was that she was she didn't have a mother growing up, and she wouldn't marry any of the suitors that came, and she was the Arctic Inuit people that live way up in Alaska in the Arctic waters. And her father said, "You're going to marry the next man that comes. You're going to marry." So this hooded figure, this came up, and the father goes, "Oh, I have this beautiful daughter Sedna. She cooks and cleans." And they went off, and he put his hood down, and he was a raven. So he flew her to the nest. This is what ravens do. And he was being a raven, and she was screaming because she was so unhappy being in a nest and having cold meat thrown at her, that the father came in his kayak. He heard her to save her. And as they're leaving, the raven comes back and sees that Sedna's being taken with the father, and he tries to grab Sedna, the raven. And the seas are rough, and the father throws Sedna off the kayak, and when she tries to climb back on, he chops her fingers off. It's not a very happy story, but this is the legend, and from the blood of Sedna, all sea life is born. So there was no life in the sea. The dolphins, the whales, the seals, everything that feeds the people. And she lived at the bottom of the ocean as the goddess of the sea. And when the seas were really rough and the Inuit couldn't fish, and they can't survive without the ocean, the food from the ocean, that the shamans of the tribe feels that they have to appease Sedna, that nature, Mother Nature's been upset. And go and they say, comb her hair, like, because she has no fingers. "We're sorry, Sedna, that you've been upset, that nature's been upset. Please forgive us." And so when I read that, I felt like the symbol for me made so much sense, because I felt like it was like the feminine. It's Venus, but kind of breech birth. She doesn't really want to come up. It's not safe. It hasn't been safe for the feminine to come up. So it's and it's also the symbol of like Venus. And then with the moon, emotions, the sea. And I put on, this is the deck that I've made, I put emerge, because I feel that Sedna represents the emergence of the divine feminine. I know a lot of, Alan Clay talks about her being the evolution of the soul. I think he calls it the evolution of the soul. And it's like Pluto, but as you can see, Pluto's crossed, so it's the underworld, right? But it's the feminine saying it's time. The feminine needs to be recognized, that especially our Earth Mother, that we're all born of the feminine on this planet. Everything's born of the feminine, so it's the time of the birth of the feminine. And then when I heard that her orbit is, they say, 11,400 years, or I've even read 12,000, because 12,000 in our memory, I believe it's in our memory, our DNA, the 12,000 year cataclysms that happened. It was also more of a matriarchal society then, and then the floods came, and cataclysms, and and it was really interesting. I listening to Barbara Hand Clow talk about Sedna, because she talked about her being a carrier of the healing of that cataclysmic time. And so I really feel, I kind of always get the sense Sedna's like white buffalo calf woman who came to the native people to remind them of the sacred ways because they had gotten so off track, that Sedna's coming going, humanity, wake up. Especially with Uranus, the on 7/7, Uranus and Sedna were conjunct and are still very close. They're only 2 degrees apart. Is like the wake up call. Like we have to get back in harmony with nature and not be raping our mother, but she gives us everything.
I'd like to offer some comments. When you're talking about the story, it's like an early creation myth of the Inuit people. And so if you study, like with Joseph Campbell's work around ancient archetypal mythology, the stories of the stars, the stories of our early people really reflect our journey as human beings. But I think you mentioned it was founded, Sedna, in 2003. Is that correct?
Yes, in November.
So when you look at just the numerics of 2003 equaling a 5, right away I felt that's Venus energy, the 5-pointed star, and that you worked with a 6-pointed drumming circle star, like following the star and then getting the glyph. So in sacred geometry, the 5 and the 6 work well together, the feminine and the masculine. So that's what's I'm tuning into things that you're saying, but power to the people. And when Pam Gregory talks about Sedna, she was actually getting a sense that it went beyond transformation. It went more into a transcendent state that is ready for the whole collective.
Exactly.
And that mythological story of creation, it's betrayal of the father, cutting off. You cannot come in the boat. The seas were going crazy. You have to go back to your husband kind of thing. But then the fingers become and the toes become like the whales and dolphins. And we love to embrace that kind of, the whale came. But it took a sacrifice of the feminine. So I'm just going to underscore your thought about, beginning with the matriarchy, the seed and core of bringers of life. And so it feels like to me, we are going into it's the rebirth, awakening, what's next for the collective. So the glyph came through the power of the drumming circle, and you weren't alone either. So for me, it's like, for those of you listening that might also want to open your channel up to this idea, if there's a creation or a creator type of picture, painting, poem, music, that each of us has access to the greater collective field. But I love your story, and you remembered the timing and the sequencing of it.
Yes, I mean, I had literally just heard it right before. Yeah.
Wow. And then on top of that, unfortunately, recently your mentor, David K. Miller, passed. Tell us a little bit more about him, and I'll show his website in a moment. What a beautiful, gentle soul. You can just tell by his smile.
Amazing. And so many gifts. I mean, he's written 4 volumes of the channelings from the Arcturians. And, the Arcturians have brought actually tools, techniques to connect with our 5th dimensional. They really work with the 5th dimension because from the 5th it takes us to all the other dimensions. But they have a ship called the Starship Athena, and it's over Bell Rock a lot of the time here in Sedona, where the Arcturians, this group of 40, that's why the website is a group of 40, spelled Forty. It's not spelled with the number, but forty.com. and these ladders of ascension. And the teachings, though, this starship Athena is in the fifth dimension because we have the ability to access the fifth dimension very easily. Okay, and they have healing chambers. They've got a blue room. They've got a holographic earth room to do planetary healings. This group is about personal and planetary healing, as it says. And ways to access these techniques. This is the Encounters with Helio, which she brings through the healing techniques and works with Giuliano, the main Arcturians. And so these are the three of there's now a fourth. And also he has a book of soul psychology. He was a psychologist all of his life, that was his profession. And then about 30 years ago when he moved to Sedona, he and his wife Gudrun, who is also an incredible spirit. Oh, there they are, all four of them. She did the artwork. She's a psychologist as well, does healings and does a lot of the art. He started to channel all of a sudden. He'd never channeled, and so that was 30 years ago. And they've created this wonderful group of 40 and these fantastic techniques to access. They're the real med beds. They're free. You just have to be able to access your fifth dimensional body. And there's teachings of how to do that, and it's very easy for us to do. To leave from our crown, and they have corridors of light to take us right to the ships. So thank you because I had many. I'm so grateful that I had many personal, private sessions with David, as well as he did monthlies every month, biorelativity, planetary healings every month, question and answers every month, and I'm hoping that they'll continue with the recordings of the monthlies. That's what I'm going to ask, that I hope they'll do that, because I'd like to listen to them again, since 2020 especially. So in a session, he knew nothing about Sedna, but because I was feeling Sedna is like Sedona without the O.
I love that image.
Here's it written, and it's known as a red planet. That's why this isn't a photograph of Sedna, but I made it reddish, like the Sedona red rocks, because it's known as a red planet way out there. So I asked David to channel, and he I think it was either Giuliano or Helio that came through and said, that Sedna is a messenger from the galactic center, the galactic core. All great messages, and he was talking about messengers like prophets, like brought the messages they received through the galactic center from the great central sun. And so what came through was Sedna is in a very unique position, being as far out as she is, and at this edge. And she comes as a messenger for Earth. The way I wrote this, I did this right before we met. Oh, she comes as, so it's a whole system, is the way they expressed it. She's come as a messenger to Earth, more than just this, but a whole system that provides an energy that can be used for manifestation and awakening. Sedna is bringing these tools of transformation from the earth to help us connect to that galactic center, and then went on to talk about Sedna helping to bring a new energy source into our planet. Now, I didn't talk about Uranus that when I had the session. but that Sedna's at the bottom of the ocean. This is the mythology. She is, she's the mother of all sea life in the ocean. That a new energy source where we don't have to use fossil fuels and oil. And they went on, the Arcturians, about how oil has been the thing that's torn things apart, and the greed of the oil. And then, oil's used even for plastics and what it's doing to the sea creatures and things. That Sedna is, and I believe it's because of this Uranus Sedna conjunction that it's probably already there, is we have a new energy source.
Could we just kind of summarize if we hold this idea of Sedna as a divine messenger for our time right now, give me the succinct message that you think you are picking up from her that was channeled.
Well, that I feel like she holds the Akashic memory. It's like it's in our blood. The ocean is the blood of our planet. That's the blood of our mother, is the water. We're mostly water. Just as the planet is more water than continents, than land. We're the same. We're one with the mother, and so I feel that it's like this our memory of how to be in harmony with our mother, because she's without her we don't live, right? I mean, there is no life. I mean, I feel like it's helping us to get in harmony, because she's going to give us, like, that's what I feel the message from the Arcturians about Sedna. There's a new energy source that she's giving to us to use. And it's not going to be the greed and the money and, like Tesla tried to give us free so we're not corded in, the cords. We don't need the cords. I think that this AI is kind of showing us that the information it's plasma. The plasma being the blue beings, which are the galactics.
It does feel like from the heart of the mother, like to fear not when your hands get chopped, your fingers, you get betrayed by the patriarchy and left to just sink into the ocean, that there's a beautiful and profound transformation awaiting. That glyph that came through from your drumming circle so many years ago, that's like 23 years ago, right? Or 22 years.
Like
interesting,
yesterday.
22, right?
Oh.
But for me, it is like Venus going into the water and the moon shape, the emotional realms of water. So it's not like I'm here, Venus above the earth, but diving deep for that glyph of Sedna, and to embrace this idea again. We know that change is here, and sometimes it does mean cutting, like you said, cords or things off that are part of our creature comforts. But the bigger gain here is, a new way to energize, empower ourselves. When you think of David K. Miller, if he were here with you now, what would he say, like on top of what you've just shared with Sedna, from an Arcturian perspective, and the healing chambers and the Athena starship?
Oh gosh. Well, that the Arcturians and many other galactics are so close by that we are all a part of that. We're a part of the universe. We're a part of the stars. And they're here to assist us, because many of these star ancestors or galactics have been in a 3D kind of dual reality, and evolved as a collective. And so it feels like we're at this place now. There's enough of us to make that shift, to evolve into a, well, what the Arcturians call the new human. A lot of people are talking about this new human, and I think that's what this Sedna is also about, helping to birth the new human. This group of 40 Arcturians call them the Homo Omega. That's their term. And then some call them Homo Luminous, I've heard, and New Human, that we really are at this time of evolving out of this lower old paradigm of, greed. I mean, it's just like in our face, isn't it? Like, this is in the United States, the Pluto return of the United States, I believe, started in 2020 when we had the Saturn-Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. And then it was exact, right, 2022 and 2023, the Pluto return of the United States. And so look at what's happening here, right? I won't go into all of that, but but just to say also, we're coming into the Uranus return of the United States, and Pluto and Uranus are the revolutionary, evolutionary planets, right?
Yeah, going back to that founding of Sedna in 2003 with the harmonic concordance, that whole framework of harmonic concordance, like it's meant to be, it's going to be painful, it's going to be change, it's going to be cataclysmic, but there's something in the transcendence, like the Arcturian light, from what I understand, it's in a parallel live stream to humanity in 3D, but it's the light that kisses us at the moment of our physical birth. And it's the light that greets us when we pass and we drop these 3D bodies. So there is something with this idea of harmonic concordance, Sedna, as almost like this light of the transformed mother. She didn't give birth to just one type of species. It was all living creatures in the ocean. So it's almost like this spawning of a new age, a spawning of a new human. And I haven't heard the Omega or Homo Omega. That's a little bit like Omega meaning the last, Alpha and Omega. But maybe that's just, I've heard of Homo Luminous, the Homo Luminous being, with our diamond light codes and DNA start sparkling, and, the many layers of the DNA start really activating the ancient ones, especially.
Yes.
But what an interesting conversation. So,
right. Maybe who knows? I mean, there's always evolution. Like I was listening to something of David's, where when he was channeling, or maybe he wasn't channeling and he was just talking on an interview, saying, well, the Homo sapien thinks they're so great, but, there's more of an evolution. And who knows? Maybe it is the last of the Homo. Maybe we're going to be galactic. Who knows whatever we call it, right?
Yeah, and then it's a cosmic joke that you have to label things that
the labels
are never fully ever evolved. It's all process and a journey. So it's energy transforming and transcending into the next beingness of life.
Yes.
Well, let's shift our thoughts and send a prayer to David K. Miller and gratitude for his group of 40. And interesting, when you said the number 40, of course, it reduces to a 4, which is all about foundation, like the 4 pillars, the 4 archangels working with the 4 royal stars holding up the celestial heavens.
Right.
So,
and this 444, and now the basket.
I know you and I are like tuning in. So let's segue, because now we're going to go from the 4 to the February, which is a 2 month, February 2027. And as you're talking, tell us a little bit more about what's coming for this workshop, and then I'll share your wonderful website. So where can people find you?
Sedona Red Door
Okay.
Retreats.com. Um, that's a painting that I commissioned my dear friend who's now on the other side, beautiful Sherilyn, mystic medicine art woman. I commissioned her to do a soul portrait, and this is the soul portrait she did for me before Sedna was announced in 2004. So we didn't know about Sedna at that time. And when she first brought it to me, um, uh, after realizing Sedna, and Sedna is very prominent in my horoscope, just being, I think, a little less than a degree opposite my sun.
Can you say what astrological degree Sedna is at right now? Do you
Yes,
remember?
I have it right now. 18 minutes Gemini right now.
Okay. So let me go back. So here's your beautiful painting. And there were a dolphin,
Yeah, I
seahorse.
love the
So a
sea.
lot of water imagery, dwell
Yeah.
cool, and the sphere, and the three faces of a goddess. So this was your soul portrait, and the faces looking back, forward, and in present time.
Yes, and she didn't know that Dwal Cool, who she put in there, and also that she's holding with no fingers the sphere. And so
Yeah.
when I looked at it I think it was years later, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Sedna.
So to learn more about Sedna, you can visit SedonaRedDoorRetreats.com to find Elizabeth. Here's actually her beautiful Sedna glyph that came through the drumming circle. Let me put a little red star here. And with the word emerge, Sedna, the planet goddess of the Akashic Sea. That's a beautiful metaphor. And you can learn more here in some of the personal messages that have come through. And oh, look at an Inuit prayer to Sedna.
Yes.
Food, you're right, and life. All right, let's go look at your workshop for 2027. So if people are here, there's a whole, um, again, there's a whole
Under
section on
offer.
Sedna. And then under offerings, you can go to um,
AstroOracle.com.
Astro Oracle course. Here we go. All right. So February 2027, it's online. So there are two-hour online classes twice a month.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
And then you'll learn I use it for divination, but also for teaching, and you get the deck. I only have very few decks left, so I'm not selling them individually now. But I am taking people's names and emails if they want when I republish them, which hopefully will be done next year.
So in the course, you'll learn basic astrology and how to apply it to your life. She mentioned her Astro Oracle deck, which includes the Sedna card, in developing your intuitive wisdom, and get to know the asteroid star goddesses and dwarf planets. So look how fun this is. So here's where you can learn more, and here's your card deck. So I love that. If you get enough orders, you'll put in a new edition.
Yes, it feels like with Neptune, that we just had the Saturn Neptune conjunction, that it's this time of merging, and that Sedna has to do with us emerging, to manifest our visions and intentions. And I really feel this. I like them calling it the magical triangle. The Pluto trining Uranus, which Sedna is close enough, but the 444, Pluto, Uranus, and then Neptune, creating the what was called the minor grand trine. But I'm going to use magical triangle now, because I was using kite because I never liked it being called minor, because I feel like it has the possibility to be like anything, everything. So I love the magical triangle, that this is this, it's going to be with us, these incredible transformational planets, and Sedna is going to be right next to Uranus during that whole time, is helping us to hold our vision with all the what's going on in the world, and the earth changes and the heats and the waters and the politics that can really bring us down, that we're here to hold that magical triangle and to raise the consciousness. We are entering the Aquarian age. We're in the zero. The 0 point. I think it's like remembering the 0 point, which is that galactic center point, the core. The crystal core of the planet, and the galactic center of our Milky Way.
Close with that message from Sedna again. If you could repeat its core message back to the collective.
To go with the flow and to merge.
To emerge with this new energy source coming through the collective. Like, fear not.
Fear not. That's what's important, right? Because, I don't know, we've been hearing for a decade or more about the 3 dark nights, like that we're going to go through the polar shift. I don't know if it's going to happen. And the whole thing is to not fear. Fear. I know I always thought, I think I was actually swimming out to dolphins in Hawaii, because I had this thought in my head, I think I'd like to die in the ocean if I had a choice. Oh well, I was not far from the shore and the tide, but I went into panic. Okay? Now the dolphins weren't that far, they probably would have come, but if you're panicking, if you're in fear, it stops the magic, it stops the flow, right? Luckily, my friend saw me and put his arm, I was just like right at the shore, really, but I just kept on. And I was like, well, I'm not going to have the thought that I want to die in the ocean. But I got
it. Now you live in the middle of the desert, far away from the ocean.
Yeah, but, fear. Yeah, not fear. Whatever happens. And that's not easy for us.
Yeah. Well, on that note, keep us updated, would you, on if another drumming circle happens and another glyph comes through or a message. Yeah. I think bringing the Arcturian and Sedna, the Galactic Center, adding David and his, channeled Arcturian beings, and that starship Athena, that the portal of the wise matron of Mother Earth, Mother Ocean, of all life, it's okay. So fear not. It's part of the process, and we'll stay tuned because there's more fun coming.
Yes.
How about that?
We're at the Ascension Playground, so we're
there you go.
Have fun. Right?
All right. Well, Elizabeth, thank you again for coming. Really, I've learned more today about Sedna, even though it was in the background or I've heard it before. You kind of brought it front and center. So thank you. And we hope you'll come back again soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.